Hey, what's up, blue collar millionaires? I got Kevin Reisch with us today. Kevin used to work for me. I known him since I think he was 19. That's when he started. He worked for me for many years, put himself through college, got a master's, then started his own roofing company, multi-million-dollar roofing company. Kevin, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, and that was quite an introduction.
Hey, tell us about the transition from after working for me. He went and got his master's, and then you did kind of a white collar job, right?
Yeah, so when I was going to school, I was going to school while I was with you. I remember we would take the long trips, and I'd be studying while I was in the hotel room.
Always.
But, after I left you, I went to go work for a company called Lantec. It was an electronic component distributor. And if you want to talk about cold calling, that was like every day, 100 cold calls, nonstop on the phone, calling Germany, China, France. Yeah. But I just remember when I was there, I had so many ideas of how to like fix the system there. Like they had like, this process of I would call, I would get an order, send it over to the purchasing manager. Purchasing manager would go get the price from overseas, come back to me, and like it just wasn't streamlined. And I remember when I proposed an idea, like I built an Excel spreadsheet to make it easier for everybody. And like everybody was just so restricted in their process, and I just felt so confined there. I was like, after a while, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
This is like I'm like running into a wall. I'm trying to make you money, and you're just stopping me.
We got shut down. Then what happened with you got involved with my cousin?
Oh,
This is how it started with the whole roofing thing.
yeah. So when I was working for Kevin, I don't know if Kevin told you, but when I was working for Kevin, I was doing we were doing a lot of gutter cleaning and
Doing roof cleaning too back then.
roof cleaning. Yeah. So he had me running the roof cleaning division of his company, and we were doing pretty good with that actually. It wasn't too bad. And his cousin owned a roofing company, and the roofing company wanted to start a roof cleaning business. So Kevin asked me if I could go train and get their division up and going. So I went over there, and I remember I wasn't getting paid. I was pretty much working for free, but I was helping them. I built their soft wash trailer. Their marketing
going into it.
I was doing the sales program. I was getting together all the marketing equipment. And then at one point there were three partners. And one of the partners wound up stealing all the money. So then the two of them separated. It was me, his cousin, and another guy, and we separated and decided to open up a roofing business. And over the course of the time, I wasn't getting paid, but I was learning about the roofing division. Yeah. And so one thing led to another, people not seeing eye to eye. I don't want to get into too much detail, but eventually I wound up opening up another company with another one of the partners. And now I separated from that partner because our personalities didn't match. And I now have Reisch with my wife.
In a nice way, Kevin bought that trailer and stuff from me when I was going down south. And yeah, he did it with my cousin. He's shady. He did some shady stuff.
I didn't want to say anything. I was trying to.
I'm close to his parents. I wasn't really close to him. After I heard all that, I was just like, that's a wrap. Anyway, Kevin, when he was working with this other guy doing the roofing, I knew you were going to leave him. Remember when I met you guys and I was talking to you, I was like, it's 6 months, he'll be out of here because he's the brains. He's like so much. You put them together, like they're never going to get anything what he's going to get accomplished. I knew he would switch off. So now that was the best move, going off on your own. And what happened to your company when that happened?
Oh, when I went off on my own?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's
skyrocketed.
Yeah. Just the freedom to just keep pushing forward. another thing that kind of held us back when I was with the other people is they were kind of older and I'm like younger. So I had like the drive. I always wanted to be working, whereas their mentality was they were like, oh, I want to retire soon. And I'm just like, listen, like I want to go. I don't want to be held back. But
You
yeah.
got to get the right partner. You got to have on the same thing. Like Chris and I for this, we have the same ideas.
Yeah.
I'm not telling Chris I want to retire. We did one event last weekend. I'm thinking about hanging this up.
Tell me, what did your resources look like when you went off on your own? I know you've got the education behind you at this point. So when you stepped out and started your own, how did that look as far as your resource side?
So when I went out on my own with my wife or with the other partners, which one do you?
No,
with your wife.
With my wife. So the company I had before Reisch Roofing, we actually were pretty successful. We were doing about $3 million in revenue each year. I'm a very detail-oriented person, very organized, and also with negotiating with my suppliers. So I run a very lean company. I don't have a lot of fat. There's not a lot of fixed expenses. Not a lot of rental of properties or equipment that's just sitting there doing nothing. So we were very profitable. I had like a 60% profit margin. So before going out, I already made a lot of money. And then when I was with Reisch, I had resources to keep me going. So it wasn't like I had nothing when I opened up Reisch because I was already successful before Reisch.
Right. So are you running subcontractors or do you have folks on your payroll?
Yes.
W-2s?
So the way I have it structured, and I have it structured this way for a few different reasons. So it's me and my wife are the only employees. Everybody else is a subcontractor. All my sales reps are subcontractors. They're all 1099s. They make 100% commission. All my installers have been with me since the beginning. They're all subcontractors. So I have it structured that way for I don't need to give salaries when people are not doing anything, especially in a seasonal business like roofing. Like right now in the winter, if it's snowing, like you're not roofing.
Right.
And I never wanted to have an expense sitting there and no income coming in. Like it just didn't make sense to me. So the way I structured it this way was they're only getting paid for what they produce, and it works out. My sales reps make a lot of money. It's high commission. So I think one of my sales reps made $150 last year. I mean, they make enough money, and they get to create their own hours. So the benefits of that are twofold. One, for workers' comp purposes, I don't have to pay for the workers' comp.
Yeah.
And then I think that's expensive.
Everybody
has their own insurance. So that's threefold. Liability wise, if something ever happened, say at a customer's house, you have like triple the insurance. You have my insurance, you have my sub's insurance. So that helps as well. And also number three is having it structured the way I have it. I kind of live in a golden rule with retirement accounts. I don't know how much knowledge or experience you guys have in like retirement accounts, but I could put a lot of money away in my pension, my 401k, and my profit sharing plan that otherwise, if I had more employees, would get diversified to everybody else. So it allows me to put more money away from my retirement than I otherwise would be able to.
Sure. That's interesting.
I love the model. So
I love the model. Do you have trouble finding subs? So the reason I ask this question is like we've been in a big boom on construction, a lot of money out there. Everybody's building, everybody's remodeling. There's just been more surplus of disposable money from all of this money that's been printed. In those moments, is it harder for you to have quick schedule times since you're working with subs and you don't have W-2 team?
That's a very good question. No, actually, fortunately I don't. And I think it's part of the reason is because I always pay my people first and me second.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of time in the labor industry is you have subcontractors do work for GCs, and a lot of GCs aren't. I don't like to throw shade on other people, but they're not the most educated in business. They don't know how to run their money properly, and they're chasing these GCs down for money for work they did, and then sometimes the GCs spent the money, and then they're not getting paid. So a lot of times I have other subcontractors reaching out to me for work because they all talk to each other. Everybody knows, and so I have a lot of access to subcontractors. Actually, my old partner, one of the reasons I separated from him was he was kind of the guy who did not know business. I ran everything, and he was the guy with the gift of gab. He could sell ice to Eskimo. So I think, Kevin, you met Larry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were like, I don't know about
Car
this guy.
salesman.
Yeah. So after we separated, some of his subcontractors, they actually reached out to me, and they're like, "Hey, Larry's not paying me," and I'm like, "Listen, you gotta take that up with Larry. I'm not with him anymore." Like, because he just did not know how to do business. So I think because the way I run things, I pay my suppliers, my labor first, and whatever's left over, I keep. I think that's why I have no problem with labor.
When you use subcontractors all the time, I mean, that's sort of, if you don't pay them, your name will spread really quickly. Because Kevin, Jose told me he knew some guys in Dover that Larry still owed money to. It wasn't through, from like 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he didn't want to do a lot of stuff. He said, this guy's going to do, that's what he does. It stays with people. And paying them quickly like you do and I do is like, that will spread too. And if there's two jobs, even if yours is a little less, they'll go with yours.
Yes. So I actually, so from a labor standpoint, I probably pay on the cheaper end, but subcontractors are okay getting that because I pay on time every time and no questions asked. I just cut the check. And even if there's an issue, a lot of times what some GCs do, and I do sometimes as well, is like if say there's like a problem on the job site, say like a roof leaks, I have my guys go out, but I don't withhold the money until they go out. Like I pay them, and I'm like, listen, I already paid you. Go do this. Whereas the other way, then they're like, oh, I may go out there, you still may not pay me. I always just try to do the right thing. And I also know that like I'm very profitable and I'm successful. So like, even if I pay them and they don't go out and I take the hit, I'm still going to do what's right to the homeowner. And ultimately, in the long run, by me doing the right thing, it's going to pay off.
I do the same thing. If you hold the money and they go out there, and roof, it's a little different. But for like gutters, somebody says, "Oh, you didn't do the back of my gutter." You go out there, it's 100% clean because, of course, they did it.
Yeah.
That just pisses them off.
Yeah.
So I just say, I pay them, and then I say, just go out there and check it for me. I'll pay them just to go take a picture for me.
Yeah.
Just because, otherwise it annoys people because that 2 or 3 days is a big deal because they got to pay their guys.
Yeah. And not even just for like labor, even for like a problem with like a leaking roof, like you just pay for the repair, even if it wasn't like your liability. I mean, at some point you got to draw the line and say, listen, I'm not responsible for this. But sometimes like I'll just pay for painting a room, even if it wasn't from a leaking roof, just because I don't want them to have a bad experience. And then they'll badmouth me on the internet, then you get bad reviews, and ultimately you just got to suck it up and take the hit sometimes.
That's a bigger problem. Bad reviews. Just do it.
Oh man. I was going back and forth with this one guy, so I know it happens. So
I was going to ask how you managed your quality with working subs. Yeah.
Well, so I've been with the same guy since the beginning. So I have a master's. Like I guess I'm kind of a nerd. I don't know. So I read all the code books and the manufacturing specs, and so I'm very, forgive my language, anal about everything being done right. And so I'm very wary about going out with new subcontractors. And if I do or ever need to, I make sure I'm on top of them in the beginning, because I want my system to be perfect every time.
So they do have a process that they watch. I mean, a shingle goes on the same way every single time, but as far as the way they interact with the customer when they first show up, or the yard cleanup or anything like that, do you have processes that you say, hey, here's how, when you're working for me, I need you to do?
Yes, yes. And not every roofing system is the same. I know, well, it's a misconception. People are like, oh, it's just shingles, but a lot of stuff that goes underneath the shingles is more important than what's actually on top. So most people don't know this, but roofing is not a waterproof system. It's a water shedding system. So water is going to get underneath the roofing system. So what's underneath the shingles are actually typically more important than what's on the shingles themselves. So my system is actually a little bit more advanced than, hold on one second. Maybe hold on one second. My wife
Oh, you're good.
They need her keys. So our system is a little bit more advanced than most roofing contractors. So like, for instance, the building code only requires ice and water shield on the eaves and the valleys, but we do it on the rakes, ridges, hips. Like we do it in other places that's not needed. I think I'm going on a tangent right now. What was the question again?
How do you keep your quality up since you're using subcontractors? Because like with me, W-2s, I got an SOP and we train them. Here's how we walk every single job. And I mean, we walk into different jobs as well, requires different stuff, but they still have a process in the beginning and the end that's always the same. But I've got W-2s. I don't have 1099 contractors.
Yeah, so we have guidelines, we have instructions for how to install everything. I actually have PDFs and documents that I send them, and then I also have pictures. And then on each job I go there and I make sure, like, are you overlapping the first rake starter course on the
okay.
So it's just being on top of them, making sure they're doing it. Most of my guys have been with me since the beginning, so they know what they're doing. But even every now and then, like, you still gotta be on top of them, because
sure,
if you're not watching them, people always cut corners. It's inevitable. I'd be lying to say that my guys never, like, I never caught them and I'm like, yo, come back and do that.
We all do. Yeah.
I think it's human nature. And most people don't program their brain to be like, all right, let me just do the right thing every time. And they're just there to get paid and do their job. So it's really up to you as a company to do quality control and make sure you're doing it right, make sure they're doing it right. And
Kevin, you remind me, this is funny. You're never going to remember this. This was so long ago. Kevin was like this young kid and he was working. I saw that he was really diligent and very, like, he really wanted to clean up really well. So I said, hey, I appreciate you always like walking behind and making sure everything's perfect. And he said, I don't want to offend you or nothing against Gutter King, but I don't do it for Gutter King. I do it for me. I know.
Yes.
I was like, what? It was so funny. And I was like, I believed it when he said it. I'm like, yeah, he's doing it for himself, not for the job.
That's
He
awesome.
couldn't allow that to like be a mess or like skip the step or slack. And he was like, that was so funny. But it made me feel really comfortable. And of course, I never had anybody talk like that. They were all trying to cut corners. I had to be on their ass all the time.
So how are you keeping your subcontractors busy? What's your marketing and sales efforts look like?
So contrary to what most people do, we're all door knocking.
Yeah. Okay.
I do zero paid advertising. We do $3 million a year, and none of it is paid advertising. I use social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and what's the other one? Twitter, the bird.
Yeah.
But we just door knock, just pounding pavement, and then most of it is from referrals. So if you have a happy customer, they just talk to all their friends and neighbors.
So how are you selling a $10,000 roof door knocking?
Well, a lot of our business model is storm damage restoration.
Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about that. So we track the storms. We find areas that have been hit by a storm, and if typically, not always, because when we inspect the roofs, there are some roofs in those areas that don't have any damage.
Right.
But typically, if you have one roof in a development which was built by the same builder, has the same roofing material, probably had the same installer on each of the roofs, and that one roof has damage, most of them do. And I mean, I don't know about you, but if somebody told me, hey, you only had to pay $500 or $1,000 for a $20,000 roof, and then and they actually provide what they're saying, and you have no problem. They do good work. They do good service. Like, why wouldn't you tell your friends and family? Like,
so you're dealing with insurance then. I understand. I'm out of the insurance world as well. We do the water, fire, mold, disaster cleanup. I did one storm chase and realized that was a different model for us, but it's for roofing, for trees, for the mitigation. Storm work is definitely a very profitable model. So your guys are all over. Your salesmen, they just hop in a vehicle, run down. Let's say you're out of Jersey, so they're running down to Florida because of hurricane.
No, we're all local. We're
okay.
We're not the stormtroopers. All right.
Okay.
We don't run in and try to take over the storm. We're local, and we just track local work. So we are located in New Jersey, and we work to the southern tip of New York, eastern part of PA, and then we also opened up a branch in North Carolina. But we, by no means, we don't travel. We don't do that. We thought about it, but it just with family, with kids, babies, it's hard to be chasing storms.
That's why I didn't like it either.
It's like knocking on doors. If you probably have a formula, if you knock on this many doors a day, this many a week, this many a month, it's just inevitable that you're going to be busy. But the thing is, people don't want to do that.
Oh yeah,
actually, that's what it is.
Do you watch Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Cuban said I think he was like, one of the best ways to become successful is just to learning how to door knock. Because if you could deal with door knocking, like you could be successful doing anything.
It builds a thick skin.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can't. When I was doing the roof cleaning, when we were doing houses back then, always when the guys had like 20 minutes left, I'd start knocking on doors. And I know guys didn't want me to do that because they knew I was going to get houses and they weren't going home. Because I want those hoses are out. Let's go do more. But people don't want to do that. People do not want to knock on doors. And the roofing companies that do that, they can be super successful, just like Kevin.
So how do you set up compensation for your sales guys so they stay motivated? And how do you identify a good salesperson for you?
Those are my keys. I thought you needed your keys. My bad. I apologize.
You're good.
Well, he was talking about compensation.
How do I keep compensation so that they're still motivated?
Yeah, and then how do you identify a good salesperson when you're trying to bring one on?
I mean,
you're really commission. It's all commission based.
Oh, 100% commission.
If that person's aggressive and knocks on doors, they're going to make a lot of money. You can make $150,000 a year.
So when I introduce my company to any sales rep, I'm never like, hey, jump right in. Just because if somebody has like a 9-to-5 job, they feel more secure. Most people don't feel comfortable swimming in the deep end right away. They want to put their foot in and feel it out. So if ever somebody's like asking me if they want to sell from me, I'm always like, all right, why don't you sell on your off time and get the ball rolling and see how you feel? Because I never want somebody to come in here, crash and burn and have a bad experience. And also, like with roofing sales, you need a pipeline to start seeing actual survivable income to come in. And since I only do 100% commission, you're not getting salary. I know it's a little scary at first. But what I can say is that the people that do dive in fully are the only ones that are successful. I had an experience with two partners, actually, the people down in North Carolina who they worked on 9-to-5, and I gave them the whole system, the whole program on how to operate the company, what to say. And I told them, I'll do all the back end paperwork. I'll do everything. All you have to do is go out there, pound pavement, and get the company going, because that's the lifeblood of the company. And just some people just aren't. They're not built for it. They're they don't have the mental toughness to handle the rejection. They just can't survive like that. And so we wound up just taking it off their hand. And now we're doing everything ourselves from up here. And I guess there's no real special formula. It's really an internal thing. And for me to recognize it, I kind of knew from the beginning they wouldn't be good at it. And I've been doing this for a while, where I could kind of just look at somebody. And I remember there were times when Kevin and I would be driving, and we'd talk about it ourselves. We're just like, this guy is going to just stay in his position. Like he is not going to be successful. Not successful, like
relative. Yeah,
everyone's successful in their own way, but like some people, they don't have the drive to be more than what they are.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I liked looking at that because Kevin was a good example. We'd have a lot of guys in the van, and I'd just be thinking to myself, where will all these guys be in 5 years? I knew what Kevin was going to be doing. He was always studying. He was studying in the van, like reading all the books. Other guys are listening to music. Other guys are getting yelled at by their girlfriend. It's like you can kind of like watch where they're going in life.
I remember there was one point actually, and I've always remembered this. It bothered me a little bit, Kevin. I'm going to be honest with you. It bothered me a little bit, but there was a point where I was like, "Hey, Kev, give me a pickup truck," and Kevin was like, "Listen, man, like you're not going to be here. You're going to be out doing your own thing, being successful. You're not staying here. I'm getting you a pickup truck."
I knew it was too. Yeah, and like Chris, we talk about that having an A business for A players, and I wasn't that at that point. So I knew he had to go on his own and do his thing, and I was okay with that. Of course, I'd like him to do what he'd have to undervalue himself, but I knew he was going to go on and do bigger things, and it made sense to me.
Yeah, no, and we've remained friends this whole time. We still it actually benefits us a little bit more, because like now that I have the roofing, he has the gutters. Like we spitball ideas, see how we each other. So I'm really blessed that he did that for me, because who knows, maybe I'd be running his Western division by now, but I don't know.
I mean, we probably would have blown it up and done other things, or had a big roofing division or something.
Yeah.
But one thing with Kevin was he was always asking me questions, and always asking me smart questions. And I would just tell him stuff. And other guys, the guys in the van, would ask me really stupid questions about nothing. Kev, man, you think I could get this Escalade, or how would I lease that? Like, bro, you make like $16 an hour. Don't do that. This guy's totally thinking about properties and all these other things, and how much do you make? And I know he's doing the numbers in his head while he's working, and that's why he probably just applies that to what he's doing.
Also, I would be like, I'm like, Kev, like, you're sending me to this complex with this guy. I could get the whole complex done in the same time.
We did. We started doing that. He'd go out of state. I think a couple times he went by himself, because he's like, I think I could do it basically in the same time. Just basically give me his pay.
I was like, give me his pay. I'll finish it the same speed.
Can you imagine that? He's like, you're paying me 20 or something. You're paying this guy 18. Just give me his 15 and send him home.
Kevin was much nicer than I'd have been. I'd have been like, dude, I got you a truck. What else you need? Just stay with me. All you need is me.
It was a lot of fun back then. So I watched him grow. Basically, I think you were 19 when you came over.
Yeah. He
was kind of rebuilding himself and some things too. I met his parents, his family. I mean, I can't believe it. Then I was at your wedding, and now you got 2 kids. It's incredible.
Wow. It's amazing how actually, and this is probably part of my success, comes to my understanding of we have a certain amount of time in a day, and we all have, like, Chris and I were talking before we got on here about, like, we all have different vices, and it's amazing how, like, all you have to do is get rid of one vice, and then there's a void and you got to fill that void. So
Yes.
what do you fill it with? Well, if you fill it with your work, well, that's how much further you're going to get ahead. And so, I at least mostly in the beginning, it gets harder as you have kids and family because they take up a lot of time. But like, I remember when I was first starting out, I was just like, everything was work. I was working till like 1, 2 in the morning, and just like organization and scheduling, and I was very like detailed about everything. Just the amount of time and energy I put into getting it up and going. I believe the universe like just provides for what you put your energy into. It's like the law of attraction. You're calling out for it to give to you what you want, and the only way to do that is to put your heart and soul into it.
So how do you manage that from actually I want to go back because you had mentioned, you asked me how deep do you want me to go personally. So let's touch into that because you've got a success story right now. You obviously have your shit together and but you didn't always have it together. So go back to when you was just a fuck up.
Yeah, so okay, I got recruited to play basketball in college. And so I was playing at Drew University, and I remember I wasn't a partier in high school, but when my parents were like kind of like they sheltered me. So when I had like no shelter, I just went crazy. And so I remember when I was in college, like I failed out. I stopped going to class. I was smoking weed all day, drinking. I remember I had like at the disciplinary office, like a file like that thick. I remember I walked in one day and he threw it on the table. He's like, "That's your file." So after that, I got kicked out of Drew, and I remember right after that I got arrested, and I went to jail. So I had surgery on my shoulder, and they gave me oxycodone, like 5 milligrams, and I wound up changing it from like a 5 to a 15. So wow. If any of you want to do that, just let you know it's a forgery charge. I don't do it. It's against the law. So I got arrested. I was in jail for about 9 months, and I remember when I was in there, for about 3 months of it, I was in solitary, and it was because I wasn't listening to the COs, the police officers, and they wound up, dislocating my shoulder, macing me, and so I wasn't doing the right things. And when I was in solitary, they don't let you do anything except you could read like one book, and that's the Bible. So I remember reading they gave me the Bible, and it was like sitting in my room, and I had all these inner demons that I was fighting, and I just kept looking at it. And then one day I just picked it up and read it. And I'm not going to sit here and say, Christianity is the way, or, I mean, there's a lot of different religions. Who am I to say that one is right or wrong? But what I am saying is that a lot of spiritual books, they have almost like it's like a playbook on living a good, healthy, productive life. Mm-hmm. And if you follow what most spiritual books tell you, like you'll make out, like the universe will provide for you if you just follow certain things. So it wasn't until I read that and I started to adapt some of the philosophies from there to my life that I realized that it wasn't the universe or the world that was against me. I was creating my own problems, and I had to change myself and my mentality in order to be where I wanted to be. So I started to write down in journals, like, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to study and get straight A's. And I started to try to program my brain into realizing that I need to do this for myself. Nobody's just going to give it to me. So when I got out of jail, I had to go to rehab, and in rehab, it was they call it a therapeutic community. And I remember in there, it was kind of military style. They would have you mop the grass. Like they would give you a mop and just say, you'll mop the grass. And like, you'd have to like just sit there doing like ridiculous things. But if you don't do it, you get in trouble. And so in the beginning, it was like kind of like a hard adjustment, but I realized that, if these punishments, if I could train myself that these punishments weren't punishments and that I wanted to do those things, then they couldn't get under my skin. So then eventually what I started to do is I would go out and just start cleaning the garbage shed without anyone telling me. And they're like, and people would be like, what are you doing out here? You're not supposed to be doing this. And I'm like, oh, I want to clean the garbage shed. And then they started to realize that, like, if he wants to do it, I can't punish him with it.
They couldn't break you.
They couldn't break me. And yeah, if you can program your brain almost like a computer system to realize that, like, I want to do this. So I want to work late hours. I want to get this estimate out on time. I don't, like, as opposed to I want to watch the Kardashians, or I want to, if you start training your brain to realizing that, like, these are the things you want to do, like, and then you do them, and they're enjoyable to you. Yeah. And so, I mean, through that course of programming my brain, like, that kind of built me up to when I got out, went to college, I wasn't going out partying anymore. I was sitting there studying. I wasn't like doing all the bad stuff I used to do. Like, I was going to work for Kevin. I was working long hours. I was like, all right, I want to make more. And then, even though I wasn't making like as much as like some people, I wasn't spending it on things I didn't need. So my bank account was still larger than the people who were making more because they were spending it on things they didn't need. And that's how I programmed my brain to be how I am today. And even today, I don't buy things I don't need. Like, I don't have equipment I don't need. I take my money and then I invest in real estate. So now I have, let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, about 25 rental units. And it's just because I make my money, and as opposed to spending it on a Lamborghini, I put it into real estate to make more money. So
wow, that was really well put, Kevin. I mean, I know your story. I didn't know that you did all that. Kind of like you made yourself. It's really just how you look at things, and you looked at them positive, and you turned them into that. So I didn't know how deep you were going to get into that. So I'll tell you from my perspective. When Kevin, I don't know if you called me. I remember I got an email message from him about the job. I think I had a post on unemployment and something in New Jersey. His email was so good to me. I never get emails like that. It was so well thought out. So I called him and I wanted to hire him. He told me a little bit about his thing. Hey, I went to jail, and I think I asked you why. I didn't care. I mean, if somebody like assaults someone, I have to worry about that because it could assault someone So he came over, and the first day your parents were with you because you had lost your license.
Yeah.
And his parents both wanted to meet me and stuff. But I actually thought that was a positive because I thought this is his parents care about him. Yeah. They're driving here at 7 a.m. to talk to me and meet me. And I basically was telling them, I'm going to take care of your son. Yeah. Like, yeah, if he works hard for me, like, because your mom I remember your mom used to always check on you. She was afraid you'd go back and do something.
Well, rightfully so, right?
Yeah, you earned that. So you were going to meetings and everything. And we probably didn't have the best culture for that because I used to, Chris, Kevin, I used to binge drink. Like and lots of guys, I had that culture going. We could, especially on the road, we were having drinks at night, and Kevin would not be a part of that. He might be out at Hooters with us, but he'd be drinking water.
Right? Yeah.
And he stuck to his thing. And I mean, I watched him grow and do all the things. So yeah, it was a tough time for him, but yeah, that's incredible. You had that attitude. He was diligent about going to meetings, doing his work. I remember you would tell me your grades and everything. And, people tell you they got a 4.0 and you're like, yeah, whatever. I knew whatever he was saying, he was getting it. I was watching it. He was like a force of nature. I mean, always work, always studying. And then you would get home from work and you'd have a test that next day and you'd put in long hours. Everything you got, you deserve.
Well, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't easy. It was easy because, like, it was a lot of work. a lot of
hard.
struggling, a lot of sacrifice. I wish I could give the perfect formula to anybody to be successful, but I wouldn't recommend. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I'm not saying that my way is like the only way or my way was the perfect way. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It's a lot of sacrifice. If you want to live like a very normal life, don't do what I did. But I will say that if you do put in the work, it will pay off. It's very like even with like my parents, like you said, they were like worried that I was gonna relapse and go back to using. And I had to suck up my pride so much and just I had to continually just show them that I was doing what I needed to do. And if you're stuck in a position where like people don't believe you or think you're gonna do something wrong, like you telling them you're gonna change or you like yelling at them or arguing with them isn't gonna change the situation. You have to prove it to them. And the only way to do it is by actions, not by words. So you like and it's a lot of work. It's a lot.
I think Kevin.
Give me a minute. I'm going to call because Lakeisha's on the thing.
Okay. I think Kevin Marron said it the best. He said, you earned that. And that's what I've noticed. And that was one thing that truly started changing my life is when I took responsibility for everything in it. I mean, you earn the good and you earn the bad. It just depends on, did you put a positive action in or did you put a negative action in? And that's the reason I'm glad that you went into that because even though that was a portion of your personal life, it's played into all of the success that you've had in your career at this point because you got your personal life correct. You started putting those positive actions in. Then you started doing the same thing over into your career path. And now you're sitting here with a multi-million-dollar roofing company that you own and you kind of get to call your own shots and you're very successful at it. I mean, that was a massive profit margin. And it's because your action of watching every penny that goes out the door, you make sure it's a profitable expense, not just an expense that falls down in the books. Lot of learned there, but I also really appreciate the fact that you said, you know, it doesn't matter what religion you go after. All of those books have paths of how to live your life successfully. And I think of all religions the same way. They're all talking about being a good person. They're all talking about putting good out. And it just talks about the law of reciprocity and giver's gain is the philosophy that I have come to realize out of most religious organizations.
That's well put.
Yeah. But so we've talked about kind of how you do your sales process, what's gotten you to success from a personal level, what your operations model looks like, and then you're on the finance side. Do you find yourself doing any factoring or do you find yourself leveraging anything or are you just 100% cash operation?
Yeah. So my company has zero debt. Wow. Yeah. I only took a loan out of $20,000 in the beginning, but I paid it off right away. I'm very anti-debt, except for recently. I took a few mortgages out on some properties, but not on the company itself. Mm-hmm. But I don't use the debt as I look at it as a stepping stone as opposed to a crutch. Mm-hmm. I've seen so many stories where people have so much debt and they're just making the monthly payments, and then one time the banks recall the mortgages and then they go belly up. So I never want to be in the point where I have all this debt to owe people. And I just personally don't like to owe anyone money. So when it comes to like these mortgages, the way I structured the rentals is that 10 years maximum they'll be paid off, but I'm going to pay it off before then. Mm-hmm. And that ultimately will save me interest. I know a lot of financial advisors, they tell you, oh, but if you're only earning 4 points on that and you can make 10 points in the market, like your math is correct, but I also don't want to owe people money. And I've personally found that when I don't have debt, the universe reimburses me for not owing people money. So that's just my personal take on
Sure.
it. Not everyone is free.
I like to add to that because Kevin has the same feeling as me. Like I use debt now on some multifamily, some big apartment complexes, like a debt weapon, but personally, none. And I built my business Gutter King when I had Chris. I had a $300 credit card. I had no credit cards, Kevin, when we were back then, except for that one when I gave you. I mean, the balances were so low because I had that bankruptcy. People who think like money's the way they're going to make money, they're not resourceful. You can do it with nothing. And it's
absolutely
by learning that process, like by struggling. And it was, I was like, damn, if I could just have a $10,000 line, especially when I had cash flow issues, you figure out ways to do it. And then when you figure it out, you don't need it anymore. So I grow 100% without that. I hate when people like say, you see like, oh, it must be if I had a $25,000 credit line, like they're going to make money, or a 50,000. Yeah. But then why don't they turn their own 500 into 1,000? How come you can't do that?
Yeah.
That's easier. That's simple.
Yeah.
Try to turn 100,000 into 200,000. That's way harder than a 500 into 1,000. So I like that. Yeah, you're super safe that way.
Yeah.
So many companies take on unnecessary debt. They buy equipment, like you said, that just sits around. They pay people in months where they shouldn't. They take jobs on to stay busy. I hate that line. I'm trying to keep my guys busy. What does that mean?
I drive by sometimes, like you see like a bunch of it's like a parking lot with just a bunch of trucks sitting there. And I look at them like, you know how much money is just sitting there right now? Like that, they're not even using it. Like, why have it?
I agree with that.
There's a gutter guy here. He has like 12 vans. I swear only like 3 of them are ever moving. I drive by to Chipotle all the time. They're always sitting there.
Yeah.
And then during like a busy season, there's like 6 of them gone. Yeah. Unload those. I don't know what he's doing.
The insurance by itself is killing him.
Every day he wakes up. I want to wake up every day and there's money in my account, net money. And it is. So is all of us. I don't know what his thing is, but he's waking up with insurance payment. Money's getting sucked out. If that insurance for all those vans costs him $5,000 a month, divide 5,000 by 30. That's what's coming out every morning at 7 a.m.
Oh yeah.
Unload some of that stuff.
I agree. And also you said something about like turning money, like you don't need money well, sometimes money does help make money, but
sure.
Most of it has to do with just personal effort. I mean, Kevin, you told me that when you started, like you were walking door to door with a lawnmower. You remember?
Yeah. I mean, be resourceful. Just go no. I think one of the best things when Corey at our mastermind told me that's when I was like, yeah, I like this guy. He was selling meat. If you can knock on doors and you can mentally take the rejection, keep going and being successful, that person can be successful in anything. And I learned that kind of not even knowing. I was doing it when I was 15 years old. I was knocking on neighbors' door. My friends they were pussies. They were scared to do that stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do it. They don't want to talk to adults. Go do it.
The hardships are what make us. I mean, without those periods of time where we were broke, where we didn't have any business coming in, where we had made some bad decision and it put us in a hard place, us pulling ourselves out of those hard places is really what made us who we are today, so that we can manage the money we have today. I thank God for the time when I had to door knock and I was stepping in dog shit in between yards. And I still remember that vividly. I swear it felt like if it was in the yard, I hit it.
Here's a thing, because Kevin, what you were saying about like almost tricking your mind, not tricking, but telling yourself. So I had figured out for apartment complexes back in like 1999, 2000, I was walking in on them. I had to walk in on 24 to get one. Meaning I would have many people say, yeah, you can give us a proposal, but it took me 24 to get a job that I was eventually going to do and make money. So I used to just say, I have to go walk in 24 of these a day. So I'd line up my thing. I wanted the no's. Give me the no's, because there's a yes behind that. I was literally like, good. Now I got 8 no's this morning. I'm getting pretty close here.
Yeah, sales. A lot of sales programs say like a no is the next step closer to a yes.
Yeah,
like, you just got to understand that. Like you just got to keep pushing forward.
Well,
I remember I was telling you about in rehab, like about mopping and stuff. Like
yeah, that was.
I remember when I was mopping, like my brain's like, oh, this is terrible. Like why am I doing this? And then I would have to be like, F you, like I want to do this. Like you gotta drive yourself. Like otherwise you're always gonna have that voice trying to shut you down. You gotta be like, no, like I'm gonna get this. This is mine.
Yeah, I get to work out this morning. I get to get up on roofs and make money for myself. Like it's all in your thing. If you're like, oh, this sucks and this and my boss and all this, you get to go to work today. You get to provide for your family.
And that also carries over to your sale. If you're going knocking on doors and you're like, oh, this sucks. Your body language is all like this. You're like, oh, I don't want to be here. Then you're trying to sell to the person. The customer's gonna be like, get off my property. Right? But if you're there all positive, oh, we're the best thing since sliced bread. Like then they're like, all right, maybe I'll listen to you.
Can I go up on your roof right now? Check it out. And if you have that attitude, it will be contagious. And you'll get that number. Yeah.
You say, would you be opposed to a roof inspection? Because people are typically programmed to say no. So if I'm asking them, opposed to it, they're like, no, I'm not opposed to it. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll go up right now.
Yeah, you don't say, can I?
Yeah. You're like, I'm here right now. I got a ladder. I'll hop up there.
I used to say it like that too. Hey, I'm going to walk around your complex, give you a proposal. Is that okay with you? Like, it's hard for them to say, no, you can't do that. But if I say, can I this, just tell them what you're going to do and say this. Basically, are you opposed to that?
Actually, there's a psychological study that shows that people want to be like a sheep. They want to be herded. They want to be told what to do. So if you're just like, listen, I'm going to go give you this proposal. They're like, oh, okay. Like they're not going to say no. I remember you used to actually teach me a sales trick where I wouldn't say trick, but it's like, hey, we're in the area today. If you let us do it tomorrow at between this time and this time, we'll cut off $500. Like, what time should I stop by? Like, you're just saying, hey, I'm stopping by. What time works?
Right.
Yeah. I don't ask, I tell. And then I see how they respond and I move. Don't ask, just tell.
It's called assuming the sale.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And it works like
it does work.
It doesn't matter what you tell them. You could tell them, you could charge, say it's usually $500 more. They just, once it's hit in their head, people like deals. It makes sense to them. It's logical. They don't want you to leave.
When I'm scheduling roofs, I'm not like, hey, can I schedule it for this day? I'm like, hey, your roof is scheduled for this day. We'll be there at 7:30. And they're like, oh, okay, that works.
That's total with us, Kevin, with doing the thing when sometimes we're on the road or my team and, we get ahead or something, or it's going to rain on Friday. I need to move somebody up to Thursday. If you ask that manager, hey, can we, they'll almost always say no, because they have to tell their residents. We just tell them, hey, it's going to rain on Friday. We're going to move it up so that we can get ahead of the rain for your association. We'll be there by 9. They never say no to that.
Yeah.
I've told them what's going on. I'm solving their problem. I'm helping them.
A mental trick that I realize is a lot of times questions are creating problems. You just got to tell them, because when you give a question, like it's like a quest in their brain and they got to solve, and they're like, no, I don't want to do this. But if you just say, I'm doing this, they're like, okay.
So naturally indecisive.
On email and people ask questions, it goes back and forth. Just tell them you're coming.
Yeah.
That's the golden nugget for this talk right there, man. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. I learned that when I was working at CarMax in the sales, and they talked about dropping seeds and assuming the sale. And it's you lead them down the path instead of letting the customer lead you down the path. You're the professional. You are the one that knows the path to go. But so many times we do pose our process as questions, and it's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I had a friend who was in financial trouble, got divorced and everything. And he asked me one time, hey, I'm going to be doing door knocking for this roofing company on the weekends. I knew he wasn't the guy to do it, right? But he was like, yeah, I want to do this. He did it for one day. He quit like 3 hours into it, and he was messaging me, "Oh, it's bullshit. Nobody does it." I said, "I know people make millions of dollars doing this.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to do it." I told him to go. I said, "Go to this website." He's like, "What?" I said, www.notbuiltlikeThat.com. I said, "Go in there and put your name." You didn't like that, but that's true. Why you quit in 2 hours? There's guys making millions of dollars.
Kevin, do you remember when we were driving?
I ain't that dude.com. I used to have a website like that, Chris. I'm not even kidding. I'm not that dude.com. I used to tell people when they quit on me or something, I said, go to that website, put your name in there. We used to call him one and done. Remember, Kev?
I remember. Yeah, he's a
one and done. Guys would come work one day and be done. And
remember that guy? Remember that guy? That one complex, he was on the ground. He's like, "Yo, this shit crazy," and we're like, "What are you doing here? Go home."
I hate it. I can't even imagine, Chris. Some guys would come out. They'd tell you in the morning, "Yeah, I just had a baby." Basically, they have no money. They're in all kinds of things. They got their wife home with a little baby. I remember this guy. He quit on day one on me. How do you go home and tell that woman who's holding your baby, "Hey, we're in big financial thing. This guy's paying me. Here's $180, but I'm not going back."
Yeah, because
she's checked out on that guy right then. Like, there's no way I'm telling that. But you're not just telling her, you're telling your baby. What's wrong with it? What? Because you don't want to get up, and it's not hard.
I know.
It's a loser mentality, and that's why it was so important about what Kevin said about getting his mind right, and she has a loser mentality because she puts up with that. So something in her life has jacked her mindset up as well to feel like that is normal and acceptable. She doesn't have enough self-worth to be able to, like, no, you're going to get your ass out there and do something, or I'm going without you.
And what they do is go ahead, Kev.
I was driving with Kevin one time. I remember we were driving on the highway, and I remember I was looking out the window, and I just started shaking my head, and I was just like, "Humans." You know? And Kevin looked at me, he was like, "What are you talking about, humans?" I was just like, "Kev, like."
You said, "I don't understand them."
I don't understand humans. Like they do it to themselves. They cause their own problems. They don't even realize they're doing it. They put their own roadblocks up. They're just like, they don't understand us.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
They talk themselves out of it. Hey guys, it was great having you. I got to go pick up Lakeisha. Lakeisha's had surgery, so I'm gonna go get her right now.
She's doing better.
Discharged. Yeah, so she's getting discharged. Super happy to do it.
Awesome.
Kev, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.